delivery guys. So it's a whole group of people. And suddenly you see there is a huge void. In spite of the fact that I was a faculty associate, there was a huge void in my life. Suddenly you feel that emptiness. Okay. And, I never thought that I will be in academia on a full-time basis. So that emptiness was there. And the fact that the day I exited, I also cried a lot. Okay, I can share that because some of you may be as young now, maybe 29, 30 odd. So because there's a very emotional feeling to detach and to give up something which you are very closely attached to. Because when you start a business, and it was a single-handed business, while in my college I was starting from those days there was an SSI registration, there is a small scale industry registration, for which you go to the district industry center, getting a provisional registration as a SSI, starting to getting your project report done, getting it vetted by the, I think in Bengal they call it the Small Industries Development Agency, getting a term loan from the financial corporation, a cash credit from a commercial bank. All that you do single-handedly. Then buying each of the machineries, putting up a team, okay, with no background at all. As a college student, I was doing that. Okay. Then you advertise, and I advertise myself. So it was like you create your own advertisement for franchise shops. And I started with, some of you will not believe it, but with 8 franchise shops post my first advertisement way back in 1994. So I was around 24, 25 years of age when these things were happening. And pretty, what I call, I would say, and I mean, pretty much exciting, so to say. There is a leading daily in Bengal, which is called Anandabazar Patrika. They carried an article on me saying that in order to be successful, you have to be a little bit daring. Some of you who understand Bengali, the title I still remember was Safolyer jonne dussahasi hote hoy. Okay, so that was the article. And yes, it was a fantastic feeling having so many shops. 1995 Walls, which was then launched by Brook Bond Lipton India Limited. Some of you are in marketing, you know that Brook Bond later on got merged with Hindustan Lever, which later on became Unilever. So Brook Bond, launched the Walls, which is still the Unilever brand, and that was launched from my shop. Okay, so I had a chain of shops from where it got launched. Then I had a tie-up with Pepsi. So all these things happening when I was in the mid-20s. Okay, so it was an exciting journey. And when you suddenly are out of your business, and there was a feeling of complete emptiness, I suddenly chanced upon an advertisement which was of Aligarh Muslim University, and that was a program which was they had launched with All India Management Association for a PhD program or a doctoral program. And that was the last date. I just saw it. I don't know how and why, because I never thought of, but that was the last date. In those days, what I did was I created a what I call application, and there was to be something called fax. Okay, there's a fax machine. So I faxed it to the admission department and said that I am sending the draft and my full application form hard copy by courier, by the speed post. So I just, filled in application through fax. I've just, faxed it up, and then I backed it up with a speed post. Why I say this is because I didn't know what I'm getting into. Okay. It's a very interesting scenario because I didn't know that. You see, when I got into business also, I did not know what I'm getting into. I got in. Okay. When I got into the PhD, I just sent it. I didn't know what I'm getting into. So I think that was 2000 November, as I said. And, most of the Bengalis during, the winter vacation goes off to some what are called destination, and the nearest one was Puri from Calcutta. And I remember that I traveled all the way from one Rajdhani Express from Bhubaneswar to Delhi to appear for my PhD interviews. And they asked me some question. I said that, see, I just exited my business, and I think that I can do some work on entrepreneurship. And somebody here said that with industry background, he came to do his research, and how does he go about it? I had no clue. Let me tell you. So I said that I think that I've got some entrepreneurial experience, and that is what I want to write, and that is why I want to do PhD. Thankfully, they took me. So I did my coursework. I got into the, I was supposed to make a proposal presentation. Okay, so post coursework, I was supposed to make a proposal presentation at AMU. So I prepared my presentation. Of course, I was there as a faculty associate in ICFI. I prepared my presentation and I went there. I said that I will study how, how you can be successful as an entrepreneur, particularly as a small scale entrepreneur. So I was making this presentation. During the presentation, of course, there are a lot of professors, senior professors, who actually look at you when you make that presentation. I was very fortunate because the chair of the area, that is the chair and the dean of the Faculty of Management Studies at AMU, okay, he then refined my proposal. I think that is the first step that one needs to do as a researcher. As a researcher, you need to, you will have a lot of ideas, lot of experiences. You do a research because you have those experiences. Now I had those experiences. And the fact is this, that I want to share everything. Then I was being questioned, and I found that, and I through that questioning, I could found, the professors only found that my exposure of, doing that business were essentially in the area of, bakery, number one. Number two, I had ran, chain shops. Number three, I had run a small scale business, not a large business. So my PhD, what I call, topic got refined during the presentation, because once, in a university, when the PhD topic gets defined, post that one cannot change it. Okay. And it was a central university. So I didn't know again what I'm getting into. But then it happened that it was a PhD topic where I had to study small scale industries in the bakery, in the city of Kolkata, and particularly the chain operations. Why I say this is, one as a researcher needs to define the scope of the study. So see, my experience was to run a chain of bakery shops in Kolkata. So it was to the credit of my guide, who later on became my guide, Professor Kaleem Muhammad Khan, who is now retired. I've got immense respect for him. So, and of course, there was a panel. I think Professor Javed Akhtar, who later on became the registrar of the university, was the dean of course. So they refined my topic, saying that it is the study of, small scale bakeries, particularly the chains in the city of Kolkata. Now, so it is very defined, geographically defined, number one. Number two, sector defined bakery. Okay. Number three, the kind of industry that I'm going to study is defined, SSIs, and kind of what I call, organizations that I'm going to study, that also got defined, which is essentially the chain shops. Now that was the first thing that happened, which is the defending my proposal. And I think that is where the first step, which I would say, is to defining the scope of the study or the research. And that is very, very important, which I understood going forward. Okay. Now, it is very interesting that some of you said you came from the industry and all that. So let me tell you, the reason why I wanted to do the research was to share from my experience and gain, in some way, by looking at what has happened in this particular area. So my journey started. There was an internal guide who was one of my colleagues in ICFI, and of course my dean, my PhD guide from AMU. Now I started my studies. Okay. Now, how do I go about my studies? That is another very interesting scenario. Now, as I said, that what I am studying, marketing strategies, and I think my PhD thesis is up for in the public domain. If you go do the Google search, you will get it. I think I have uploaded it also. Okay, because there is nothing to hide. So it was study of small scale bakeries in the city of Kolkata, particularly the chain operations. Okay. Now that means I am studying what I'm studying I am doing a study of marketing, because that by definition in the topic I'm saying a study of marketing strategies of small scale bakeries of Kolkata. So I'm not doing the financial study. I'm doing marketing study of marketing strategy. Very clear. So the scope is defined. Number one, area is marketing, sector is bakery, type of what I call industry is small scale, and geographically it is Kolkata. So again I am repeating, it is about defining the scope. Sector defined, area marketing defined, type of what I call industry small scale defined, city geographically is defined. So the study becomes very, very focused now. Now, some people asked, somebody asked here that do I need a multivariate technique, what I need to do and all that. Now, the question was, I didn't know. And I was, very raw, because my marketing was my MBA knowledge of marketing. And we all know the model of segmentation, targeting, and positioning. So I thought, okay, I understand this part, and positioning is a very important concept. I will base my study on the STP model. So the question here is, as somebody asked here, do you need a model? Yes, if you are going to study something, there must be a model which you need to look at. So the model needs to be built, or you can use an existing model. So it was a very simple model. We know that there is an STP model, and based on the positioning, the marketing mix gets aligned. I am talking about early 2000. By the way, for some of you who are what I call graduated very recently, if you go back to the literature, you will see in 1995 Kaler's article on brand equity was written, which means branding was also a new concept till the middle of 90s. 1991, Aker wrote his article. In 1995, Keller wrote his article on brand equity. So STP and the 4Ps was a model which I thought is a good model. But then I was very distinct that if you have to do positioning, and as you can see that my background was not quantitative at all. Okay. So the point is that I have to also then understand how to test the model. Correct. But I had some idea. I thought that, okay, and there was a very famous professor in IIM Calcutta who was who is no more. But if you have, if there is one book in marketing which one can refer to for positioning, was a book by Subroto Sengupta, okay, on brand positioning. And there he talks about the perceptual maps. And I was very fond of that book, okay, because he used to come as a visiting professor at ISWBM. I was very fond of that book. I thought, yes. And as a marketeer, I believe that positioning is one of the most important elements of a marketing strategy. And I think that still holds good, okay, in spite of whatever advancement has happened in marketing. I think if I say that it is always positioning is number one, number 2 is positioning, and number 3 is positioning. With that belief, because that was my belief, by the way. But the point is that you have to, when you are a researcher, nobody will take your belief as a belief. You have to find out a way to make others believe what you believe in, which means that your model is your model. So I decided that there has to be STP, there has to be marketing mix, and I will compare the marketing strategies and see whether the strategy is appropriate or not, and what is the impact in terms of their revenue, in terms of their market share, in terms of their impact on their brand equity, and in terms of their profitability. I was extremely fortunate. Okay, some of you may be from Kolkata, maybe also from Bombay. So I was extremely fortunate because once I sold my business, I also became an advisor to a bakery chain in Kolkata called Monjini's. Okay, I think last few weeks back, it's in Calcutta. The company name was Sweets Food, brand was Monjini's. Now it has become Mio Amore, and the person behind it was a gentleman called Arnab Basu, who passed away only some 3-4 weeks back. So there were two gentlemen, Arnab Basu and Mohan Maitro. Okay, and I became also the advisor to Monjini's. Now that is a huge advantage as a researcher, because first of all, I had a first-hand business experience. Number two, I was also consulting with them. Now somebody mentioned here that is PhD a lonely journey? My answer to that is, it depends on you. Why? Because for me, it was a hugely collaborative and collective journey. Because I had to study all these bake shops. Now, because I was associated with Monjini's and there were connects, so I could get access to all other, bakery chains which were there in Kolkata those days. Okay, I don't want to name them because you will not know them, but I had the access, I had the information. In any case, you have to do competitive tracking, even if you are an advisor. Second, I thought that, for my own personal sake, I thought that how do you test positioning? How do you, normally what happens is you go by, you qualitatively ask people. There's, qualitative research techniques through which you can ask people where you would like to position the brand. Okay, is it, based on, you can take the parameters and ask. But finally, there is no conflict between qualitative and quantitative research. If you say qualitatively, this is excellent, on a 5-point scale, it might mean 5 out of 5. If you say good, it might mean 3 out of 5. If you say very good, it might mean 4 out of 5. If it means fair, it might mean 2 out of 5. So this conflict between qualitative and quantitative, I don't see there is any conflict. So I was very clear in my mind that quantitative is nothing but, expressing what is captured qualitatively. Okay, I repeat again that quantitative is nothing but what is expressed qualitatively. As I said, I am very fortunate because I had, a group of academic in my family. My father was a professor. There was a one point in time, 3 of my very close relatives were, one was the head of the department was physics, one of the head of the department of chemistry, and the other was the head of the department of mathematics, all three in IIT Kharagpur. Okay. So I remember, because, two of them were there, physics and chemistry. The mathematics head of the department, okay, who was very famous, okay, he was the Ishan Scholar of Calcutta University, Professor Deven Mitra. He is also no more because they are all my grandfather's contemporary. was a very close friend, actually was brought up within our family only. He used to say one thing, that algebra is the queen of all languages because it is the language of mathematics. By the way, I am not a mathematics person, huh? you know. Uh, but point is that in the family you have got some people who is physics, chemistry, mathematics, so there is maybe some what I call side effect of that. Okay. So I knew one thing in my mind, that qualitative expressions can be converted into quantitative numbers. So I approached my professor in Calcutta University. He was the head of the Department of Operations and Systems those days, Dr. Kalyan Sengupta. By the way, he's now with, he was my professor during that time, during my MBA college days. He's now with IFIM in Bangalore. Okay. And he's an amazing person because he's very approachable. That is the most important hallmark of any professor, is that approachability. Okay. So I went to Dr. Sengupta. Okay. I don't know whether I should have invited him today actually. So I told him, sir, I have got a problem. He said, what? And he is a completely operations and systems guy. He is a engineer from Warwick. Okay. And then worked in GE, then he did his PhD, and then first he was in Regional Computer Center in Jadavpur University, then in ISWM Kolkata. So I told him, sir, I know that this perceptual map and positioning can be created, but mostly all the books say qualitatively. Can we make it quantitatively? This was the question I posed to him. Then he said, what is this you are talking about positioning? See, you must understand that it is always a two-way process. He's such a senior professor. Imagine when I was a student of MBA, he was a head of the department already. And I am telling this. So he said, but then I don't know marketing. He's a complete operations research person, engineering person, data modeling person. You won't believe, I had to, he took the effort to learn marketing. So I had to actually, sit through with him, explain what marketing is all about. So all the concepts of marketing, what I'm planning to do, what I'm trying to do, all that I told him. Then I designed a questionnaire. Okay. Did all the survey. I was doing the shopper intercept. So I had to stand in front of the shops and you do the survey. In those days, there was no quick access to any literature. Right now, you have got all Emerald, EBSCO, everything in the finger, online access. Those days, you go to a library of IIM Calcutta, they will give you some few pages. There was restriction, which you can take a photocopy from the library. Okay. Because you are not enrolled there. Any case, we managed to do some survey, get some results. But by looking at the results, because I was in the business, because I both as a entrepreneur and then as a consultant, I thought this is not the right result that we have got. We decided to do one more survey. After collecting 300 questionnaire data, okay, I dumped the entire data into the dustbin. Because my intuition said that I don't think this is happened the right way. Okay. Of course, in the process, I had to go through entire Hayer's book on multidimensional, multivariate analysis, understand, all the tests and, particularly multi-dimensional scaling, because that is what is very important if you have to do a positioning map, because positioning map is nothing but a multidimensional position of the brands. So I collected the data once again. Meanwhile, we were progressing, and in those days, Indian faculty members were not publishing so much. And in one of the meetings, then I would say also the founder maybe of ICFI, Professor Yashasvi, said that in academia and research, there is a caste system. And it is very difficult for an Indian researcher to publish in a A or B category journal. And I'm talking about some 2002 or 3 like that, maybe. Okay. So I said to Dr. Sengupta, because as an entrepreneur, that is what happens. Sir, can we publish in a or B category journal? So I know he never discouraged me, but he said that you can try. It is very important to try. So first of all, what we did was, looking at the literature, we understood what the model would be like. Okay, created a model to test what marketing strategy is. Do that entire what you call work in terms of collection of data. And of course, as you do that, it is very important to get peer feedback. And that is why we also go and attend the conferences and seminar. I remember I was making a conference presentation. As a matter of fact, my first conference presentation happened at IIM Bangalore in 2003, March 2003. I was goddamn nervous, but I talked about my entrepreneurial journey because that was the R.S. Raghavan Center. And there I talked about, without anything, because I did not have a brand, how I managed to get 8 shops by, having them as my franchise stores. So I represented a case study. So somebody who is said that, is it mandatory to build a model? Okay, you are definitely have some model. Otherwise, you have not something. Model is nothing but generalization. One story can be an article. That is your article, which does not need any peer review or anything. But when the same thing gets repeated, if you can come out with a generalized conclusion, then only it qualifies as a model. Otherwise, please go ahead and write an article. Okay. The two things. One thing is this, that when you yourself would like to test whether what you propose is working or not. So there are two ways, and I did both the ways. I will tell you why. So first of all, my first presentation happened in IIM Bangalore. But one of the interesting presentations I did as a research scholar was in 2005 at IIM Ahmedabad. I think they still have that conference for emerging markets, and it's basically a marketing conference where a lot of international scholars come. Today, some of you can see that Professor Jagdish Seth is in my Facebook, what I call this thing. I had done, I now work so closely with him a lot of times. But that first presentation I made, I remember there were, Professor Jagdish Seth sitting in the audience. I don't know why he attended, because those are parallel tracks. But there was one more gentleman who was a professor, which is Professor Nikhilesh Dholakia. So he is also a Northwestern Kellogg PhD, IIT Delhi, IIM Ahmedabad 1971 batch. I think today there was a session at IIM Bangalore, a virtual session where a lot of people actually talked about, how they knew Professor Raghuram, the director of IIM Bangalore. Nikhilesh Dholakia is the person actually who wrote the recommendation letter when Professor Raghuram applied to Northwestern Kellogg, because Nikhilesh Dholakia himself is a Northwestern Kellogg PhD. So they were all there. Okay, and I got some very interesting feedback. And they said that, why don't you convert it into a journal paper? I had no clue, but I thought at that time journal paper, so I should make one, because I am always excited about something or the other happening. Not because somebody told me, but it is just like my own excitement. I don't know whether that is an entrepreneurial trait or not. So I came back and told Dr. Sengupta that I want to convert this. And then that paper I sent to one journal called Asia Pacific Journal of Marketing and Logistics, which was a B category paper. First peer review came, which said, it was not rejected, but all major review. And they talked about all kinds of literature, model, these, that. But that was one huge learning experience, because I went back, did all the literature, studied all the literature. Earlier to that, I was more of a consultant, business type. That converted me, I think, to a great extent in that journey of publishing that paper. What literature exists, how it developed. So, and why the question that gets, the question that is asked to a researcher is, why did you choose a particular model? And somebody who asked me this question, is it mandatory to build a model? You when you are proposing something, there is always a something in your mind based on which you think that the things are working. That is what is the model is. Then the question is the model working? Or number one, in what context the model will work? Number two, number three, what are the boundary conditions? This is what are the these are the things which we need to build into a model. It may not be, it may be very contextual model also, but that model explains, okay, that this is appropriate in this context with these limitations and boundary conditions. Normally, that is a huge challenge for faculty. We normally teach a model without, touching upon the boundary conditions within which the model will work and where the model will not work. So that whole journey of writing that paper was something where I learned the whole issue of how to refine a model. I think if you attempt to write in a good journal, your review that comes will refine you. That is also very interesting. Now I will tell you whether you need always a multivariate technique or not. Answer is no, you don't need it. Because there are a lot of research which is purely based on qualitative research techniques. I just now talked about Nikhilesh Dholakia. His PhD was entirely on quantitative modeling in marketing, and that too from Northwestern Kellogg, and being an IIT Delhi graduate and IIM Ahmedabad. If you look at his work today, he is a pure play qualitative researcher. Okay. He shifted from quantitative to qualitative research. And qualitative research is as strong as quantitative research. I think there is a very interesting book you can refer to if some of you think that you want to do qualitative research. There is a book by Edward Gumeson on qualitative research. And you can refer to that. Okay. That's a book, again, I repeat, by Edward Gumeson, Gume, I think SSON. Now, why, when you say that you are building a model, there can be challenges. That why are you using the STP? Why not some other model? There is also the relationship marketing model, which is the 21 hours. Because normally in marketing, everybody probably knows that we talk about the 4 Ps, but there also exists 21 hours. So one has to actually say that why this model is appropriate to the context. Okay. So that is one part which you want us to build as a researcher, that given my assumption was very simple. If you get your positioning correct, that will result in good, what you call, market share, good revenue, good profit. So one has to build that model around. By the way, in those days, even still it is like that, the thesis used to be evaluated by an external evaluator, and the VC in AMU those days, according to my and my dean was also very this thing, that it will be evaluated by a full professor in US or in Europe, because a lot of times otherwise what happens is it goes to somebody known. So in order to have that objectivity, that was the rule that was done. There were a lot of agitations in AME on that because there were not many PhDs were coming out in those days. I'm talking about if you go back in 2004, 5, that era. So I did not want to take a chance. I did case studies of all the, what do you call, bakery chains that I studied, why they're doing, what are their plus, minus interviews. So I did that. I also did, as I said, the first set of questionnaire I dumped in, second set of questionnaire I tested, and I found what I found qualitatively from the case studies matched quantitatively with what my results were. So there was a, what we call triangulation. Okay. You have one assumption, your multivariate may not be right also. As I said, the first dump questionnaire, I just dumped in the dustbin, first set. If you don't have an insight, you won't know whether your quantitative is giving you the correct answer. Let me tell you that. A researcher must have one's own answers to the assumptions. And if there is a variance, then the researcher must challenge the data, the result that has come out. To me, that was the case because I was a consultant. I've done my business and this is what is coming out. Then I learned that then we knew that this model is not right. The testing is not right. So we created, refined, and then we went ahead. It so happened when we resubmitted the article, that was my first publication in a rated journal, so-called B category journal in ABDC those days. And I think the title of the article was Importance of Appropriate Marketing Strategy for Sustainability of Small Businesses. So there was a link between the article and my PhD thesis. That is how, my PhD thesis got refined, which I submitted, okay, somewhere in 2005. And interestingly, it went to, as I said, to a professor in US who was a full professor. Interestingly, the feedback that I got, which is shared again after my PhD got awarded, was the fact that there were some gaps, but still the PhD evaluator's assessment was I had brought in very good managerial context into my research, because that was the good thing that I got in. Now, that's how I got my PhD and my first publication. But let me tell this to all PhD scholars, that PhD is nothing but the starting point of one's journey. As I submitted my PhD thesis, I shifted to SPJMR in Mumbai. Okay. And because I had done, I had ran retail chain operations, I knew the retail. I remember one summer trainee coming to me at SPJMR who was interning in Johnson & Johnson, telling me, sir, I have to do some in-shop activation to lift the sales. And she had a different guide. But she knew that I am a fresh faculty who has joined. I was around, 36, 37 years old. I'm talking about 2007 when I joined. So she came to me, I was pretty young. And she asked me this question, that, sir, what can I do? Having experience of retail, I thought that, okay, what is it that you have to do? She said that all of you probably are aware of Johnson & Johnson's baby care. So how do you lift the sales? How do you grow the sales? Then I said, what sales and what are the things which constitutes? Because you have to continuously question. And she said, sir, first is the baby oil, then the soap, shampoo, the cream, the powder. I said, what sells most? She said, sir, soap sells most. Okay. Then I said, okay, fair enough. You find out that, a lot of people had given a lot of ideas. So I did a very simple thing. I asked that can you do a survey to find out if it is in pack, whether to make how aware people are for the entire cycle of baby care, massaging the baby with the oil, then the soap, then the shampoo, then the cream and the powder. She found out that a lot of people don't use the oil, a lot of people don't use the cream. So I said, create a pack, combo pack, and see what happens. And you arrange the shelf, pre-bath, bath, and post-bath. You won't imagine, based on the research and based on some of these insights, the sales in that experimental shop went up by some 30% in Mumbai. Of course, she got a pre-placement offer at Johnson & Johnson. She joined Johnson & Johnson as a management trainee, went on to become the head of shopper marketing. That's a later thing. But you know what? Anupama madam narrated saying that I had studied Latin America and Asia Pacific. So when she joined Johnson & Johnson, Johnson & Johnson was looking for somebody who can find out, how the shopper behavior is in the general trade, matlab the small traditional stores, what we call the kiranas and the wholesale. And they wanted to find out, they were sourcing consultants from all over the world because this work was coming from the Asia Pacific office in Singapore. Their office is in the strategy building in Singapore. And I didn't have any clue. One day an Australian gentleman calls me, Paul Barnett from Singapore, and says that, I want to speak to you. I want to speak to you. So I said, regarding what? I said, I got your reference regarding that fact that you have some idea regarding retail and you understand shoppers. I said, yes, I run a retail shop. I said, can you give us a proposal that how to do a study and create a model for, shopping steps in the Asia Pacific region? Now I said, what does that mean? I have studied only Kolkata and all that, and I'm just a normal Indian academic. That is where, again, research is never a lonely exercise, collective. I wrote to my PhD evaluator in US, who herself, by the way, her PhD guide was none other than Phil Kotler, and supposedly a very strict lady. And she is a Berkeley, and then a Kellogg PhD. I wrote to her saying that, I have this protocol offer from Johnson & Johnson and I have to build a proposal. Would you like to help me? She said yes. And then I learned how to create a consulting proposal. Because US professors mostly, they work very closely with the companies. And I bid for that particular project. You won't imagine, I got the project which involves study of India, Philippines, China, and later on Brazil and Argentina. I don't want to talk about the billing because the billing of the project, I did two projects. One project Corner, which is the general trade. The second one was Project Middleman. But the billing of the project resulted in me buying my flats in Mumbai. So you can imagine that one project can buy you one flat in Mumbai, means the size of the project. And I got that project as a lead consultant. Now what happens is, now you look at it, now if you have to study Philippines, study Brazil, study Argentina, you again cannot do alone. So I identified from the US university who are the Filipino scholars there, who are the Chinese scholars there, who are the Indonesian scholars there, who are from Brazil, connected with them to conduct field studies there. Which means I'm sitting in a shop. India, I've studied fully because India in any case was part of the what I call the market. But to sit in a shop in Philippines, observe shopper behavior, video record, do observation, do shopper intercepts was an amazing experience. Whether you talk about Philippines, Indonesia, China, etc. Vietnam, okay. Now you don't even know the language, and I'm doing a research there, sitting in the shop. Okay, but that's a different story altogether. Now, not only did it, see, all the time I was doing like consulting, Monjani's consulting, PhD, Johnson and Johnson consulting was happening. Now, that also resulted in my paper in Journal of Macro Marketing, again a top journal. And because I was with the industry, I got invited in all across the forums, okay, in Bombay. So there is something called a India Retail Forum, okay. I was there. There has to be an India Retail report by Images Retail. You will see my articles there, which is basically for practitioners. So all the top guys like Nagesh, etc. writing. Now, because I was a practitioner researcher, my promotion happened very fast. You won't believe, 1st April 2008, I was an assistant professor at SPJMR. By 2012, I was a deputy director. And I rose from faculty associate in what I call ICFI to lecturer, senior lecturer, assistant professor. At SPJMR, I joined as the lowest level at, what I call as an assistant professor. I think I was paid the lowest among all assistant professors when I joined. A lot of people, negotiate on the salary. In my whole life, I have never negotiated. Whatever people wanted to give me, they gave. So I did not know. Okay. But by 2012, I was a deputy director. And I rose from assistant professor, associate professor, professor. I had held positions like area chair, program chair, then the deputy director. Because I was practice oriented, when Mica was looking for a dean at Ahmedabad, because there is a Mudra Institute of Communication, Madhukar Kamath, the chairman of my, DDV Mudra those days, invited me to be the dean of Mica. Now, research cannot be something which is like research for the purpose of research. It must be exciting. So models, because that is what the satisfaction we get. That I have created that model. Even for practice, when you are talking about Johnson and Johnson consulting, you are actually proposing a global model which they are going to what you call adopt. Which means just to give you a simple example, because this is shopping, we created nothing but a 7-step model. How a person actually goes through in the retail store, in the shop, when it comes to shopping. Now, the question is, once that template or the model gets built, that is then applied across all the countries globally. So I remember my final presentation to the Johnson and Johnson, all the country heads sitting in Singapore in the strategy building. It lasted for 6 hours. And all the country heads were asking questions from all around the world. Okay. Now, that is a model you have to defend. That is just like as difficult as, defending your PhD thesis. That is what the purpose of model building is, because we as academic, we as researchers can do model building. Now, that takes me to the answer of another question. If there is limited research in an area, how do you what you call prepare? Or if there is a topic where there is no research earlier, how do you do it? I remember when I was bidding for the job at Johnson and Johnson on shopper marketing, when I Googled the term shopper marketing, you know what was the response in Wikipedia? It says, this term is an orphan. That means nothing has happened in that area. If there is no research which has happened in that area, that is your biggest advantage, because you are the only guy who are doing it. And you build your own model. So first of all, I don't think there is any challenge if there is limited research in an area. Please go ahead, as I said regarding shopper marketing. 2, as researchers, as academic, we have to, one of the things that we should be good at is model building, testing, and saying where it works and where it does not work. So that's how, if we can, to my mind, if our research is focused not towards, with a target of, okay, I will do this for this, okay, either a promotion or anything, okay, then it becomes little limiting. I did what I wanted to do without thinking whether it is got any bearing on promotion, this, that. I enjoyed what I did. I still enjoy doing that field research. Okay. And People liked it, people loved it, that's it. And all other things happened very fast, if I had to look at it. So my focus of research was me enjoying what I do, not because to what I call anything else. So it was fun because entrepreneurship was fun. Then, consulting for a company like Monginis was fun. Doing the PhD was equally fun. Then studying the shopper behavior across continents was fun. And then automatically, all other forces come together, because if you are, people, it is very difficult to find out people who are genuinely interested. If somebody is genuinely interested in something, then all other people come together to join that person. So whether the person is in US, Europe, and imagine when I was doing this research with J&J, then I was an assistant professor and I'm collaborating with a full professor of very senior level in US. So that is not a barrier at all. I think that's the basic thing through which research can be done. Main, I would say the most important part is, first of all, we are doing research because we want to unfold something which is already existing. It is a process of discovery, and discovery is nothing new. It already exists. We are just unfolding that. And two, because it gives us immense satisfaction. We did not bother about, I did not, never bothered about what to call, who will say what. I did what I wanted to do. And I think that way I had fun and I enjoyed my research, and still I am doing it. Just now as was said, that I was doing an industry research to create a curriculum. Okay, fantastic. I just enjoyed the process. Now people from Europe, US, everybody wants to write a paper with me because they thought that my understanding of curriculum is good. I don't know whether it is good or bad, but other people think that is good. Okay, so point is, if you enjoy the process, I think that will be of immense satisfaction. Models will come, you will understand what are the limitations, because whatever we do is not perfect. It is always there will be some imperfection. There will be ways in which we can improve a model, and that is an ongoing journey. That is why research is done. It is not a full stop, but it is always a start, and it is always continuous. I think that is what a researcher's journey is all about. I am ready to take questions. I think I already overshot time.
No problem, sir. Very insightful session. Yes, there are a couple of questions actually people have been writing in the chat box as you were speaking. So perhaps we'll start with that. If anybody has any question, they can also unmute, right, sir?
Yeah, of
Yes,
course.
yes. Okay, so I think there was one question here about from Sujani. Posting the query, understand that theory needs to be taken as a base for carrying out research. Could not find an exact match of theory for my study so far in the ROL that I have done. Are there online library websites where one can find list of theories related to different concepts?
No, you don't need to be bothered too much. Just now I said that in my case, there was no background of shopper marketing as a topic. So you find out, see, normally, there is something called Google Scholar. If you just in Google Scholar, if you give that particular protocol, if you want to search for that theory, if there is any paper is there, it will throw up along with the journal name and all that. Whatever is there, that forms the basis of your literature survey. If something is not there, that is a gap, and it is for the purpose of the research is to create a model. So you build your own model. That is the best way. As I said, that build your own model.
Right, sir. Sir, there is one question from Padma Gita who had asked that is implementation necessary for research? Is innovation always a must for research? And one more which is there, which is relating to the fact that if statistics is important for research, statistics must.
As I said, that's why I gave the example of qualitative research, particularly Edward Gumason. If you look at the Harvard, business school, they rely a lot on case studies. Edward Gumason's approach is on qualitative research only. So this is a very wrong notion that research means statistics. I think that's that, you can definitely do qualitative research which is as strong as robust as quantitative research or statistics.
Right. So there was one, I think, last question from Sudha Deepti. She's thanking you for the session. Should I proceed in narrowing down my research problem as my research topic is more generic? Though I'm trying to read many papers, I'm stuck to narrow down to fix problem statements. Sometimes it makes me low. How do I overcome? What are the correct parameters we need to consider for making our research a good quality?
See, the question is narrowing down is up to you. See, because as I said, if you are doing any study, the broader it is, the harder it is. Because any research, the last part is always about direction of future research. Correct. So we do, these are our conclusions, these are the limitations, and the last section is normally direction for future research. So basically if you take a small group which is within the scope, because you are doing it for your own, in a way which is understood by others and you are also comfortable. So how much narrow you would like to get, how much you would like to narrow it down, it's up to you. There is nothing to feel low about. Research is something which is to be enjoyed. Never feel low about it. You just enjoy it. That's it. See, the problem in our education is, I can tell you, people think by, doing very, what I call, education in a manner which is not enjoyment at that point in time, we will do an enjoyment later on. Okay. It never happens like that. When COVID will come, when COVID will go, we don't know. Enjoy the moment. So if you are in, school, enjoy the school first. Then if you are doing a PhD research, enjoy your PhD research first. Don't think today I will work so much and I will put so much pressure on myself that tomorrow that I will have a better day. Tomorrow's better day will come only when I have got a better day today. So whatever you are doing today, if you don't enjoy, that makes no sense. You must enjoy today. If you learn to enjoy, you will always learn to enjoy throughout your life. First, learn to enjoy. So don't be low. Okay, whatever is there, whether it is narrow or whichever way you define it, you find it okay. If you are satisfied, that okay, fine. This is good for me and I am happy. That's happiness. That's it. What do you think is the impact of social media on the attitude of customer? Your inputs, sir. Nowadays, social media is, you see that social media is winning, and not just customers. You look at it, it is the social media war which is winning and which is making an election results. Okay, whether it is US or in India. Okay, so there is definitely an impact, but I think that the impact, the way we see it today. Earlier, what used to happen? Whatever is in print, we used to trust. Whatever we see on particular media, we trust. Today, what has happened is people have started their own filtration mechanism. So impact is definitely there, both positive and negative. But people have started, customers are becoming smart, people are becoming smart. They have started their own, I would say, moderation and filtration. Even when there is something on print, something in the media, everybody knows who is doing what. Madam, you are on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I think that is about the question. Apart from that, I think a lot of people are thanking you for the insightful session. Indeed, I mean, it was really very, very engrossing, insightful, impactful, and I think we had a wonderful session. Thanks to you.
Thank you so much. Okay, it's
Banga
great
sir.
pleasure.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I would like to ask Dr. Banga sir to.
Professor Atish ji, in fact, is a unique session in that journey of an entrepreneur to become, say, researcher. That's what we have, say, gone through. And furthermore, even after becoming a researcher, how you monetize, say, whatever you have learned, that's a great thing. I think there are a lot of learning from your session for our research scholars. And as you rightly said, research is not the full stop. It's the beginning of a continuous journey. That is what is wonderful takeaway from your session. Professor Ji, I thank you wholeheartedly for taking your time off, that too in the evening, that too on a Saturday, to be with us. It's a great session, Professor, and I should thank you on my own behalf and on behalf of all my research scholars and my colleagues and the university. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Sarthak, and thanks to our technical team also, and thanks everyone for the participation. Have a good day, good weekend. I'll connect with you later, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Banga sir, shall we disconnect, sir?
Yes, yes, please. Go on.
Right. Thank you.